Good day, everyone. This is Meredith Leon McCormick for World Bride Magazine. Are we in for a treat today? It's going to be a guest that we don't usually think about when we talk about weddings, but I felt it was absolutely necessary to do so. And we have invited I'm sorry, not Miss. She's not just a Miss. She is attorney Patricia Elizee. Welcome, Patricia. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited too, and I hope nobody gets nervous about you because the only time some of us see attorneys is like, something's going wrong.
I'm here to help. I'm here to help.
I'm excited. So please tell us the name of your law firm and how long have you been practicing?
My name is Patricia Elizee. I am based in Miami. The name of my law firm is Elizee Law Firm. I'm the managing attorney here. So we've practiced in immigration law, and we also have a background in family law. And
Oh,
we've had a law firm now for over 12 years already.
wow. That's a long time.
Yeah, it just passed by so quickly.
So now, why did you pick law to practice, to go into as a field, a career? Why? Why law?
That's a really great question. So, I'm originally from Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and my family and I immigrated to the United States when I was 9 years old. For immigrants, it's really important that our education is top, right? So, my family was extremely supportive. I went to undergrad where at University of Miami, where I studied communication. When I was in a media in the law course, I was so excited about the law and I
Mm.
wanted to know more. And I told my parents, especially my mother, I'm kind of interested in maybe going into law school. The second I said that, she told my entire family and all of her friends, my baby girl is going to be an attorney, right? So from there, I had no choice but to study for the bar. And again, I had their full support. Um, and they helped me, very, very supportive. Went to law school, loved it. I thought I was going to go to law school and do international business law because that's my parents' background. They have an international business, but I fell in love with immigration. I fell
Wow.
in love with helping immigrants like myself.
Mm.
Um, as a law student, I was actually helping in a clinic where we were helping immigrants with their cases, going to immigration law, helping them file for their benefits. And
Mm.
something clicked. I love the fact where I could take someone in a very vulnerable situation and moment in their lives and guide them to a more secure place so that they felt protected. They felt like they could turn to someone that understood them, that could relate to them. And from there, I've just been practicing immigration and I really, really enjoy it.
Wow. So, just for all of you guys that may not know, I am also Haitian. So there's only three careers Caribbean parents and African parents want you to have: a doctor, a lawyer, and an engineer. So anything else outside of it, what are you doing? So I love your story. I can relate. I'm the child that said, "Hey, I'm gonna do this," but I fell in love with law also when I went to college and I took business law
Mm.
because I'm a business, a small business. So I can see why you fell in love with it and the desire to want to help other people. I didn't continue with it, but I did decide that, World Bride Magazine would be a platform that I can use to invite people like you that are so helpful. But again, like I mentioned in the intro, it's often difficult to make people understand that having a lawyer is like having your primary physician, like having life insurance. It's those kind of things that you should have in your back pocket just in case. And throughout life in this society, you just need someone to reference to, wait, did I make a right decision? And because we are World Bride Magazine, I thought it was really important to have you a part of this because So many people are traveling, young people now, the Gen Zers are traveling, they're meeting people outside of their native homes. So, what happens when they decide to get married? So, thank you so much for agreeing to come and chat with us about this. So, now we know your background on law and why you came into it. What would be the case where a couple would need your services?
That's a really great question. Like you said, nowadays people are meeting everywhere, right? We have students on college campuses within the US that are
Mhm.
meeting immigrants, or have people within the US meeting people at work, on the job, etc., traveling. The where I find we make the biggest impact for a couple is even before they get married. So if you're a US citizen, or you have a green card, and you're marrying someone who does not yet have a
Mm,
permanent status in the US, I feel like that's where we can really, really help the couple, because what we do as an immigration law firm is we really guide a family, either a couple, etc. We guide the family as to how to get to your end goal. And oftentimes, that end goal is to have the non-US citizen, right, get a permanent status. So when someone is about to get married and planning, they're really excited about the wedding, they're really excited about the dress and the cake and etc., but they're not thinking, okay, what happens next when it comes to the legal side? How is my spouse going to be impacted? How am I going to be impacted? And how should the wedding be planned, right? So we
mhm,
have a better chance and we have a better experience with immigration, right? So that's something I really enjoy doing, is answering those questions for couples. Where should they get married? When should they get married? How should they be traveling before they get married, right? Because don't forget, a lot of immigrants are coming in and out of the US on a tourist status. As a tourist, legally speaking, you should not have the intent to come and reside permanently in the US. So
mm,
what happens if you're traveling to the US to get married to your US citizen fiance? How do you handle that?
mhm,
How should you time it? What are you allowed to do? What are you not allowed to do? What are some red flags? So, what we do from the very beginning, we can guide the couple, have them prepare effectively. Once they're legally married, we help them also put the package together. And the
mhm,
reason I say package is because, remember, guys, when you're filing for a federal immigration benefit, it's all nice that you have this great background, this love story. If you're not able to document it effectively, it
mm,
doesn't get that green card. And
mm,
that's what we're here for. We will complete all the immigration forms. We will guide you as to how to document your immigration history as well as your relationship,
mm.
so that once that immigration officer gets that packet, those documents, they can rubber stamp it. That's what we want. We want that rubber stamp approval because everything is there, everything is well organized, so we could get approved faster as well.
Mhm. So typically, how long does something like that take? If done correctly and authentically, because that's really what it's about.
Yes, very, very important to be authentic in a lot of different ways. Firstly, obviously, the marriage has to be a bona fide relationship. It has to be a real marriage. And that's what we're here for, right?
You
We're
mean
here.
not the 90-day marriage?
So it could be a 90-day marriage. However, it has to be a real marriage. You have to be entering into the relationship in good faith, with the intent to build a life with your partner.
Mhm.
And that's what we're here to document and to help you show. And to be very clear, at the Elizee Law Firm, we are not in the business of helping fake marriages or quick marriages, because we take this very seriously, right? Um, as a US citizen or a green card holder sponsoring an immigrant, you're signing these federal forms where you're
Mhm.
testing that you will be sponsoring this person and it has legal consequences. You are appearing sometimes in front of an immigration officer under oath. As an attorney, I take that extremely seriously because I'm representing both parties. So we definitely have the conversation of, listen, it has to be a bona fide relationship. We go through the evidence with our couples, they understand the consequences, and we really enjoy kind of guiding them through the process. But that's what we do. We help families reunite, stay together, build a future together.
So I have a question. You said sponsor. What does that mean? Because I know what it means, but I need people to understand what sponsorship really means and the consequences, or at least one of the consequences that I don't think people think about when they say, yes, I'm going to sponsor you.
That's a really great question. So, as the US citizen or the green card holder that is requesting an immigration benefit for your spouse, you're signing a few immigration forms. One of the forms that you're signing is the I-864, which is a financial affidavit,
Mhm.
where that if you read that affidavit carefully, you'll see it's a legal contract with the federal government that
Mm,
says you will be financially
mm.
responsible up to a point for your spouse.
Say that again. I'm gonna need you to say that again.
So when you are sponsoring someone, when you're sponsoring your spouse for an immigration benefit through marriage, you're signing an affidavit of support, which is a contract.
Mhm.
You're signing a contract with the federal government that says you will be financially responsible for this person up until they become a US citizen. So, what does that mean? If for any reason you end up getting divorced, you're still,
Woo!
right? You're still on the hook for that contract up until your spouse becomes a US citizen.
Say that again. Because I don't think people think that through. They think that the divorce ends the relationship. They're no longer married. They're no longer obligated to each other. But your contract wasn't only with your spouse, it's also with the government now.
Correct. So, and just be mindful, regardless of a prenup, right?
Woo!
Regardless of a prenup, which is going to be governed by state law, you are signing a contract with the federal government at the sponsor of your spouse saying you will be financially responsible up to a point for them up until they become a US citizen. Meaning, if for any reason your spouse starts collecting food stamps or start getting Medicaid or Medicare benefits from the federal government, the government has the ability of turning around and suing you as a sponsor to be reimbursed.
Woo!
Sponsored them, you sign saying that you would be financially responsible. So that's something to be very mindful of, right?
That sounds like a child support bill.
It can be. So it can definitely be a circumstance where, let's say you sign a prenup where you waive alimony. Alimony is waived in the prenup, right?
Mhm.
However, you have this financial affidavit that's signed that you can present to a judge and say, I may have waived alimony under state law. However, Your Honor, I have this contract where my spouse signed for me saying that he'd be responsible for me. So, depending on what state you're in, that will come into play in your legal divorce. And something to be also mindful of, regardless of whether you're an immigrant, regardless of whether you have a prenup, it's very common under state law that as the spouse, you're able to collect alimony during the duration of the litigation.
Wow.
So there's a lot. So what I tell my couples, right, is you definitely want to invest in the legal knowledge before you enter a marriage, obviously, and also before you sponsor someone under federal immigration law. Have that consultation, seek legal advice, understand the actual circumstances that you're in before you move forward, for sure.
Doesn't sound very romantic. No, I
It
think that's what
doesn't.
scares people, and we're so conditioned to believe in all this romance without counting the cost of everything long term. Of course, nobody plans for divorce when you're planning a wedding. You want it to last forever. But unfortunately, nowadays people get married, divorced far too quickly. But that's probably because 90% of the time, for those that actually go through with it, we didn't count the cost. We didn't think about, what is this? Are we really compatible? Or do we have the same vision? Are we going the same direction? If do you intend to stay with me throughout this journey of life? Do you want children? What happens with that? Are those also things that you can help with? And I just mentioned it, you know, immigration law, children. All I can think of is Not Without My Daughter, where that movie Sally was in, and it's like, oh my God, if children are involved, it becomes even more draining and emotionally and financially. So who gets the kid and where does the kid go, after that? Do you also help handle that when there's children involved?
So with our firm, because we're focusing on the immigration aspect, we're a little limited as to what we're able to do outside of the immigration bubble. But what happens is, if a client needs to be referred to another attorney that focuses on a different area of law, we can definitely do that. But you also have to understand, as an immigration attorney, when you're speaking to one, you want to hear the attorney explain the conflict of interest laws. Because
Mm,
don't forget, right? You're a couple. I'm one attorney representing two people. You want to be to understand that one attorney, if there's a conflict between the two parties, is no longer able to continue the representation. So for any instances, if the spouses are not on the same page, or
mm.
one does not want to continue with the processing, that attorney who represented both of you is not able to give advice to the US citizen that's going to hurt the immigrant, or to give advice to the immigrant that's going to hurt the US citizen.
Wow. So they both have to go find another attorney now.
Correct. Hmm.
That's a lot. That's a lot to take in. So that on that note, I'm going to have to invite you to come back, and I'm going to have to invite you to continually write and educate us and do these videos explaining scenarios, because we hear the love story of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. We're like, oh my God, that's so fabulous. She's a princess, she's a duchess, she's a this. But he left. What's the impact of that? And then there's the other scenario of Melania and Donald Trump when they got married. That came up to question about her citizenship status and that of her parents as well.
That's a great point. So there's different circumstances, and that so when you're talking about, when we're looking at Donald Trump and Melania, for example, right? From what we understand, what's been reported, she came in as a student. She eventually got a worker visa. She was modeling, etc. Eventually, she chose to get her green card not through marriage, from what's reported, but through a work visa called the EB-1 for extraordinary ability. So
Thanks
she
for clearing that up.
so she self-petitioned for her green card. That's not going to be available to the typical immigrant, right? And it was probably a strategic move as well, because if she did get her citizenship, her green card, through her spouse, he would have been liable as well under the federal laws, right, to support her beyond the marriage if they were to get a divorce.
Okay. Thanks for clearing that one up.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you're talking to a couple, and it happens all the time, especially in big cities like New York, Miami, LA. You have a US citizen that is dating a professional that has their own work visa. They don't need you to stay here legally, but it's an option.
Right.
So you want to weigh it out. Should they continue on the path they're already on,
Right.
get that green card eventually through work, or should they switch over to a marriage-based petition and get the green card through the marriage?
Okay. And then now the controversial story is Porsha and Simon that got married. And these kind of things come up and everybody starts to speculate. Did they do this for the TV show? Did the TV show know what was going on? What is really the status of their marriage? Was she paid to marry him? Is it a rating thing? Is it a PR stunt? All of those play into it. What are your thoughts on that?
You know,
Thoughts.
allegedly.
Allegedly.
Right.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, right? Simon has a very complicated immigration history.
Mm.
So he came in on a tourist visa, overstayed. He left voluntarily before he was deported. Apparently, he came back. He used a fake name, a fake identity. He committed immigration fraud. He committed credit card fraud, all of these things.
Wow.
So, this is the typical example of an immigrant not understanding. Listen, you have one immigration file. You don't have two, you don't have five. You can come up with five different names. You can have, five different kinds of applications. At the end of the day, the US government has your fingerprints. They
Ooh.
they have your name, they have your history, you have one file. So something that you did in the 90s is still going to be in your file even though you're applying for an immigration benefit today. And being married to a US citizen doesn't mean that you're going to be forgiven for any immigration consequence that you have in your history.
Ooh.
So being married to a US citizen at times may help. If, for example, you're being charged with deportation and you want to apply for a waiver to stay,
Mm-hmm.
but not every single offense is going to allow you to qualify for that waiver. And unfortunately, here, Porsha is saying she's not going to stick around and she's out. So he's not going to have that US citizen available to show that he has someone who's going to experience extreme hardship if he were to be deported.
Wow, that's pretty heavy. And these circumstances, why we don't want to meddle into other people's business because we're limited into with the information that we do gather. We need to look at those stories and yes, you can speculate because that's what the mind is automatically going to do, but you need to look at those circumstances and weigh them out. Like make sure you're not heading down a path that you can't dig yourself out of. So I really want to invite you back to
I would
further
love
educate
that.
I just want you to educate our global audience that wants to come here. I know an amazing woman. She and her partner, they come here to America and they bring couples from France to get married here. But these couples, 90% of the time, they're already legally married in France. They're just having the wedding just to say that they did a wedding in America because they love America and New York territory. But we're not talking about those circumstances. We're talking about people that want to reside, be a US citizen. So I want people to understand that law is it's very complex, but the consequences are very deep if we do not have the proper advice, guidance, and counsel to get us through it. So with that, I would love to pause this for now, but come back and let's have more conversations like this. And so can you tell our readers and viewers where they can find you just to ask some more questions?
Sure, I would love
They
that.
need your service. They might need your service right now.
Oh, I'm definitely available. So if you guys want to find me, you could find me online. My website is elizelawfirm.com. That's ELIZ as in zebra EE lawfirm.com. And I'm on all the social media platforms, Elizee Law Firm. So looking forward to talking to you guys and helping you and your families through this journey.
I really appreciate this. So the next conversation I'd love to have is about the parents and the children, because my family, my mom came here first.
Mm.
Then she sent for my dad and me and my sister, you know. So I remember as a child becoming a citizen with you know, with my mom and, you know, and my sister. So it's really it's a hard I don't remember how, if I was excited because I didn't know, but I remember going into the court and coming out of the court. So those are things that are monumental for people that want it so badly. But there's consequences to the law if you're unaware of how they operate. So
And that's
thank
something that also I've personally been through the immigration process, which is why I'm able to kind of connect with someone that is scared or uncertain, and just needs that extra kind of, love and security blanket to know that we understand and we're there for them.
I love that. Well, thank you so much again. Until the next time. Okay, guys, there you have it. You are going to have to stay tuned and continue with this. I think I'm going to make this Mindful Monday. So every Monday we might have, um, I'm talking about attorney Patricia Elizee come in and talk to you guys. And if you have questions, please send them or contact her directly on our link on the website. So until the next time, ciao.
Ciao, guys.